The signal no one answered. Except Earth, the stars over the planet Trelos shimmered in silence. The skies had not seen ships in weeks. The people were afraid. Ships had stopped coming. Trade had ended. And now the attacks had begun. Unknown. Raiders, brutal, fast, and without mercy, descended on colonies across the Outer Rim. Trelos, once peaceful, had become a hunting ground. Commander Laro stood inside the underground command center, sweat trailing down his brow. The room smelled of fear of panic. "We've sent signals to the core worlds," he whispered. "But they all ignored us." A younger officer, Myra, responded quietly. "They say we're not important enough, not strategic, not worth saving." Laro clenched his fists. The Trellisians weren't warriors. They were builders, miners, farmers. "We don't even have a fleet," he muttered. "Not even a single warship." As the planet trembled under the weight of another orbital strike, Laro gave the order. "Send a wide-burst emergency transmission. To everyone. Even the forgotten worlds. Even Earth." Myra hesitated. "Earth?" she said. "They haven't spoken to the galaxy in decades." "I know," Laro replied. "But at this point, we don't need promises. We need a miracle." Meanwhile, on Earth. The old listening post sat hidden under layers of ice in Antarctica. For over 40 years, it had received nothing but static. Earth had pulled away from the galactic stage after the Council's betrayal. No more diplomacy, no more trade, no more contact. But the machine still listened. When the signal from Trelos arrived, an old satellite blinked. It was simple, a plea, not for wealth, not for territory. Just one line repeated in dozens of languages. "This is Trelos. We are under attack. Anyone, please, help us." A technician named Will, the only man stationed there, stared at the blinking light. He hadn't seen a real transmission in years. He checked the origin, then checked again. It wasn't a trick. It was real. And it was desperate. He grabbed the old comlink and sent one simple message up the chain. Off-world distress received. Human aid requested. What followed next happened fast. Too fast for anyone on Earth to believe at first. Orders came from the old command tower buried deep in the Rockies. Old files were opened. Hidden fleets activated. Names not spoken in decades were spoken again. Humanity had stayed silent for years. But silence was never weakness. It was preparation. Back. On Trelos, 3 more cities had fallen. The air was thick with smoke. Hope had almost faded. Children were moved to underground bunkers. Mothers cried in silence. Laro stared at the sky. No answers. No help. The only response had been the echo. Until that night, Mira came running into the command center, her eyes wide. "Sir." A new signal coming from deep space. Fast. It's not one of ours." Laro rushed to the screen. The transmission was simple. Human fleet en route. Hold. For the first time in days, no one spoke. Even the walls seemed to freeze. "Earth?" Laro asked, breathless. "No, not Earth," Mira whispered. "Humanity." Humanity awakens the darkness above Trelos was quiet for the first time in hours. The raiders had paused. It was as if they, too, felt something coming. Commander Laro stared at the sky, his fingers gripping the edge of the table in the command bunker. "Is the signal real?" he asked. Mira nodded. "Yes, sir. It's coded in ancient Earth patterns. They're using burst tech we haven't seen in decades." Laro's heart pounded. "How long until they arrive?" "Unknown," Mira said. "But if their speed is real, hours, not days." The other officers in the room whispered among themselves. Some still didn't believe it. Earth had left the galaxy behind. Everyone thought they had given up, that they were just a memory stubborn. Dangerous, but quiet. No one expected them to come back. Not now. Not like this. Far above, near the edge of the system. The void twisted as a fleet dropped from faster than light. The ships were dark, quiet, deadly. No bright banners. No signal lights. Only silence and power. They called it the Ember Fleet, a hidden arm of Earth's forgotten military. Each ship bore scars of old wars, upgraded with weapons the galaxy hadn't seen before. These weren't machines of peace. At the center of the fleet was the battleship, HFY. Built to fight empires, it had never lost a single engagement. And now it led Earth's answer. Inside, Captain Holt stood on the bridge, hands behind his back. His uniform bore no ranks, no medals, just a single patch, a burning star over a cracked world. Time to arrival at Trello's? He asked. 32 minutes, sir, the pilot replied. Enemy ships are still active in orbit. Captain Holt gave a cold nod. Broadcast this message to all ships. No survivors among the attackers. We're not here to warn. We're here to end it. The bridge lights dimmed red. Targeting systems blinked alive. Across the Ember fleet, silence was replaced by the slow hum of weapons charging. Earth's fury was ready. On Trellos. The ground shook again. Another energy strike hit the outer farms. Fire spread in the distance. People screamed. The raiders had returned, and this time they weren't holding back. They've started the final push, Mira shouted. We won't last much longer. Laro clenched his jaw. Put all batteries online. Fight until the last. The old defense cannons on the surface opened fire, but their shots were weak meant for pirates, not full-scale assault. Raider dropships began descending through the clouds. Black and massive. Hope was fading again. Then the sky lit up. First. A long, sharp beam of blue light tore across the clouds. It split a raider cruiser in half with terrifying precision. Then came the thunder. One by one, Earth's warships broke through the upper atmosphere. They moved with cold precision. No speeches, no banners. Just destruction. The Ember fleet opened. Fire with rail cannons and plasma bursts. Ships exploded in every direction. The raiders, confident before, now panicked. They weren't ready. Not for this. From the surface, it looked like the stars were falling in flames. Laro stepped outside the bunker for the first time in hours. Ash rained from the sky, but it wasn't from Trellos. It was from the burning hulls of enemy ships. Watched a human dropship land just meters away. It was massive, armored, black as night. The ramp opened with a hiss. Out stepped 5 figures in dark suits, no symbols, no introductions. Just focused eyes and walking power. One of them stepped forward, removed her helmet, and spoke softly. We got your call, she said. Now. Get behind us. It's our turn. Asterisk, the monsters of Earth. The people of Trellos watched in awe and silence. The black armored humans walked through the burning fields like shadows made of steel. No hesitation. No fear. The one who spoke first, the woman with cold, calm eyes raised her wrist unit and gave a single command. Clear the skies. No survivors. Above, the Ember fleet obeyed without question. Precision strikes began. Each shot ripped through enemy. Vessels like paper. No wasted fire, no delays. It was brutal. Efficient. Final. The raiders tried to flee, but Earth's ships hunted them down with relentless speed. The human war fleet wasn't just powerful, it was merciless. On the ground. Near the old mining district, Laro led the armored soldiers through the remains of a burned village. We tried to hold them back, he said quietly. But we didn't have the strength. You weren't supposed to, the soldier beside him replied, helmet still on. That's why we came. One of the raiders' gunships swooped low over the town, its cannons glowing. Before Laro could shout, one of the human warriors stepped forward, aimed a shoulder cannon, and fired. A high-pitched scream filled the air as the weapon launched a spear of white-hot plasma. The gunship exploded mid-air, raining debris in all directions. Laro stared, wide-eyed. What kind of weapons are those? Old ones, the soldier said. Improved. Inside the Ember fleet, on the ashfall, Captain Holt stood before a hollow display showing raider movement across the system. I want this entire fleet wiped clean. Trellos is not to be touched again. His second-in-command nodded. Sir, scouts report they're transmitting distress. Signals, asking for reinforcements. Holt's eyes narrowed. Good. Let them come. Let them all come. The Ember fleet adjusted position. Mines were deployed in space. Cloaked satellites began scrambling communications. Earth's fleet wasn't just fighting, they were preparing to trap anything that tried to respond. Operation Black Flame is active. Holt said, any hostile ship that enters this system is lost. Meanwhile, in the refugee bunkers of Trelos, children peered through cracks in the walls, watching as black armored humans moved through the city, eliminating raiders with terrifying ease. One child whispered to his mother, are they machines? The mother shook her head. No, sweet one. They're from Earth. They're what the galaxy forgot. At the edge of the mining district, Laro followed the human team into a command outpost left behind by the raiders. Inside, they found prisoners weak, bruised, but alive. One of the human soldiers knelt beside an alien child and offered a piece of water gel. The child took it slowly. Thank you, she whispered. The soldier only nodded. Then he turned to Laro. This isn't just about Trelos, he said. We've seen the pattern. They've done this to 5 other colonies in the last cycle. You're not the first, but you'll be the last. How can you be sure? Laro asked. The soldier stood. Because Earth is watching again. Hours later, what was once a battle zone had become a graveyard of broken raider ships. Smoke curled into the sky. Fire still burned in the hills, but not from Trellasian homes. From raider wreckage? The Ember fleet had not only fought, they had dominated. Laro stood at the edge of a cliff and saw the warships above like dark stars. Silent, still, and ready. Mira stepped beside him. We were dead, she said. Then we called Earth. Laro nodded slowly, and Earth answered with fire. Asterisk, the Trapezoid, single enemy vessel, managed to escape the destruction. It limped through the stars, its engines burning, trying to send a warning back to the other raider clans. But it didn't get far. Behind it, 2 Earth warships emerged from stealth, silent and swift. They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they unleashed a burst of energy that jammed the enemy's systems. The fleeing ship twisted, turned, and then exploded in silence. Above Trelos, the space lanes were no longer open. Earth had sealed them. On the ashfall, Captain Holt stood before the full fleet command. They'll come, he said calmly. They won't believe what they've heard. They'll think Trelos is just another soft world. A quiet chuckle passed through the ranks. The officers of Earth's Ember fleet weren't just fighters. They were ghosts, trained in isolation, prepared for war long before anyone remembered they still existed. One commander spoke. How many do you think will answer the call? Enough, Holt replied. We'll let the bait hang. Give them a reason to walk into the trap, and when they do, someone asked. Captain Holt's voice was firm. We burn the stars. Back. On Trelos, the survivors were pulled from the bunkers and brought to safety zones. Medical units from Earth had already landed, operating with speed and silence. They spoke little. They helped much. Mira helped a limping elder onto a stretcher. We never thought Earth would answer, the elder said. Mira smiled faintly. I don't think Earth expected us to call. Laro was helping organize supplies when a soldier from Earth approached him. Captain Holt requests your presence, he said simply. Laro followed him to a temporary command tent set up near the old trade port. Inside, Captain Holt stood over a holomap showing a dozen nearby. Systems. Red markers blinked on 5 of them. These are the other colonies we believe are in danger. Holt said without looking up. You're going after them? Laro asked. Holt nodded. They were waiting for someone else to fight back. That's all it takes. One push, one answer. Laro's voice was quiet. But you didn't just answer. You destroyed them. Holt looked up, expression unreadable. That's the difference between Earth and the Council. They negotiate with monsters. We remove them. Elsewhere, in the depths of space, a gathering was taking place. The surviving raider. Clans scattered remnants of broken warbands received the message from Trelos. At first, they laughed. Earth? That was a myth. A ghost. But when they saw the data, the images of ruined ships, the weapons used, the names of lost warlords, they stopped laughing. A massive warlord slammed his clawed fist on the table. They think they can frighten us with old machines? We'll bring the full fleet. Another barked in agreement. crush their little colony, and bury their ashes. And so they began to gather. Over a dozen fleets set course for Trelos, ships filled with killers, slavers, and war-hungry pirates. They believed they were coming to finish what they started. They didn't know that Earth was already waiting at the edge of the Trelos system. Captain Holt stood on the observation deck as the fleet prepared. "Let them come," he said to his second in command. "They think this is a fight for a weak colony." The officer replied, "What should we call the operation?" Holt stared into the stars. "Operation Reminder," he said, "because the galaxy forgot what humans can do." And then, as the Ember fleet cloaked again and vanished from sensors, a new order was sent. The moment they arrived, rain fire. No mercy, no escape, no survivors. Asterisk, the invasion begins. The stars shimmered as more ships entered the Trelos system, dozens of them. The raider fleets had arrived, bigger and more vicious than ever before. Their hulls were jagged. Their weapons bristled. Their commanders believed this would be an easy victory. Their sensors scanned the planet. They saw smoke, wreckage, and silenced no enemy ships in orbit. No signs of resistance. "Just a wounded colony below. It's weak," said one raider captain. "We'll strike from orbit and finish the job before sunset." But they didn't know Earth fleet was hidden. Not in deep space, but in shadow, cloaked and silent behind the system's dark moons, watching every move. On the ashfall, Captain Holt stood with arms folded, eyes locked on the tactical display. Red lights filled the screen. The enemy was confident. That was exactly what he wanted. Targeting locks complete, his weapons officer said. "We have all their ships marked. Ground forces await the signal." Holt nodded once. "Begin." Above Trelos, hell began in silence. Dozens of orbital mines activated, sending waves of electromagnetic shock through the enemy fleet. Shields failed. Engines flickered. Confusion spread. Then Earth's warships decloaked. Every gun aimed, every system ready. It started with a single shot. A bright spear of energy from the ashfall cut through the lead enemy dreadnought, slicing it in half. Then came the storm. The Ember fleet opened fire with devastating precision. Plasma cannons roared. Missile swarms lit up the black sky like 1,000 dying suns. Enemy ships turned to fire, but Earth's targeting was too fast, too cold. Within minutes, 5 raider ships were gone. 10 more were crippled. And the others? They tried to flee, but space mines and auto drones blocked their escape. One by one, they were hunted down, burning, breaking, exploding in the void, on the ground outside the refugee zone. Laro stood with Mira and dozens of survivors, watching the battle unfold in the sky above. It was like watching the stars cry fire. "They're losing," Mira whispered. "The raiders? They're losing." "No," Laro said. "They're already lost. They just don't know it yet." Then the humans moved in again. Earth's drop pods rained down like comets, slamming into enemy landing sites and clearing them in seconds. Black armored infantry surged forward silent, disciplined, unstoppable. A team of 6 humans took down a full raider base in under 3 minutes. They used strange weapons, sonic bursts, burning arcs, drones that struck like lightning. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like monsters. One raider screamed in panic, dropping his weapon and running. A human tracked him silently, then tapped his wrist unit. A small drone fired from the air, clean, quiet, final, inside the raider flagship. The enemy commander bellowed, slamming his claws against the controls. "Where are the human leaders? Why won't they talk?" One of his officers screamed, "They don't talk. They just kill." That was the moment he understood. This wasn't a fight. This was an execution. He turned to flee. But before he could give the order, a massive blast tore through the side of the ship. Atmosphere rented. Alarms screamed. The humans had boarded. Black. Shadows moved through the smoke. The last thing the raider leader saw was a red targeting light on his chest, and then nothing. Back on the ashfall, reports poured in. Raider flagship destroyed. Third Fleet neutralized. Remaining ships attempting to surrender. Captain Holt gave no reaction. Accept surrender, he said. Then scuttle their ships. The officer blinked. Sir, Holt's voice was calm. If they came here to kill civilians, then surrender is not a shield. No mercy. The order was carried out, later, at sunset on Trelos. The skies were clear. Ash drifted softly on the wind, but it was not from Trellosian homes. It was from the broken bones of the enemy fleets. Children came out of hiding. Families walked the streets again. The people saw Earth soldiers standing like statues, watching the horizon. Myra turned to Laro. We asked for help. And Earth, he said, his voice low, unleashed vengeance. Asterisk, the warning to the stars. Trelos was silent the next morning. But it was not the silence of fear. It was peace. Ashes of the battle still flowed down from the sky, but now they mixed with the golden light of sunrise. The people walked outside again. Children played in the fields. Farmers returned to burned fields, already rebuilding, but above them, the Ember fleet remained watching, guarding inside the ashfall. Captain Holt reviewed the final battle reports. Every raider ship that had entered the system had been destroyed, or dismantled. No survivors were left. No weapons remained intact. The Ember fleet had erased them from history. But that wasn't the end. Send a message. Holt said. His comms officer nodded and opened the broadcast. Across the galaxy, in every star system that had turned its back on the weak, every government that had closed its gates to cries for help, and every pirate fleet that once hunted the edges of space. A single message appeared. This is Earth. We received the call. Trelos stands free. Those who prey on the helpless will now answer to us. No further threats were made. No negotiations offered. Just a simple message. And the galaxy went very quiet. Back on Trelos. Laro stood on a ridge overlooking the colony. Ruins. Now they weren't ruins, they were rebuilding sites. Human engineers worked side by side with locals. Water lines were restored. Power grids lit up. It was like the return of life after a long winter. Mira approached, holding a datapad. Captain Holt wants to see you, she said. Laro followed her through the valley to a human outpost. Inside the tent, Holt stood near a map of nearby star systems, marking enemy trade routes and pirate strongholds. We finished what we came for, Holt said without looking up. Trelos is safe. You're leaving? Laro asked. Holt finally looked at him. We didn't come to stay. Earth isn't building empires. We're making sure no one else does either. The stars forgot us once. Now they'll remember. Laro nodded slowly. And if we ever need you again? Holt handed him a small black cube. This has one button. Press it, and we'll come. But I doubt they'll try again. Meanwhile, far beyond Trelos, in a hidden moon base, a group of alien warlords gathered in panic. The footage from the Trelos system was terrifying. Ships destroyed in seconds, troops wiped out. Fleets gone. One commander slammed his fist on the table. They weren't supposed to exist. Earth was quiet, absent. Another whispered, they weren't absent, they were waiting. A third asked, what do we do now? The room fell silent, because the answer was clear. They stop. They all stopped. No more colony raids. No more pirate hunting grounds. No more council games, because Earth was watching now, on Trelos during the departure ceremony. Hundreds gathered as the Ember fleet prepared to lift off. The sky shimmered with engines charging. Laro stood with Mira as the first dropships ascended. A little girl walked up to one of the armored soldiers. She tugged on his glove. The soldier knelt. She offered him a flower simple, yellow, trembling in her small hand. You saved us, she said. The soldier didn't speak. He just nodded, took the flower, and walked away toward his ship. Moments later, the Ember fleet rose into the sky, then vanished silently into the stars. No banners. No parades. Just fire in their wake. And the memory of their power. Asterisk, the legend reborn weeks past. Trelos, once scarred and broken, had begun to thrive. Again. Fields turned green. Water flowed freely through the repaired systems. Trade ships returned, not just out of duty, but out of respect. News had spread fast across the stars. The story of Trellos was now legend, but the truth behind the legend was something different, a reminder. On a distant planet, in a galactic academy, a young student raised her hand in class. Teacher, she asked, did Earth really destroy an entire fleet for one small colony? The instructor, an older alien with silver scales, nodded slowly. They did. But why? The instructor turned to the star map behind him, his voice calm. Because someone asked for help, and Earth doesn't ignore cries for help. Not anymore. He tapped the star map. They left the council. Went quiet for decades? Many thought they had gone. Soft, or forgotten how to fight. He paused, but what the galaxy didn't know, what no one expected, was that Earth had not been silent out of fear. They were simply waiting, back on Earth. The Ember fleet returned in silence, docking in secret hangars, hidden far beneath. Mountains and oceans, their names wouldn't be spoken. Their victory wouldn't be celebrated, and yet, everyone in command knew something had changed. A signal had gone out, not just a message sent to the stars, but the message sent by their actions. Earth was no longer isolated. Earth had returned. In the quiet halls of Earth's military command. Captain Holt walked alone through a narrow corridor lined with black walls. His footsteps echoed softly until he reached a vault door. Inside, dozens of screens displayed signals from all across the galaxy. New calls, warnings, whispers. An officer approached. Sir, we're seeing a major shift in behavior. The raider clans are scattering. Piracy is dropping. Even the core worlds are strengthening their defenses. Holt simply replied, good, let them all remember. Meanwhile, back on Trellos, Laro stood on the new command tower, now fully rebuilt. The colony had installed defenses, established alliances, and begun training its own guard force. But none of that compared to what hung silently in orbit, a gift from Earth, a single black satellite, unmarked, always watching, and if activated, always ready to call the Ember fleet again. Mira joined him, holding a datapad. Incoming messages from 3 nearby colonies. They want to join a protection network. Laro smiled. Not a bad idea. They're calling it the Human Shield, she added. Laro nodded slowly. Then we better be worthy of it. 1 year later, the galaxy had changed. No more unchecked invasions. No more ignored pleas for help. Raiders whispered of a fleet that moved in shadows. Governments no longer mocked Earth, they studied them. And the people who once lived in fear now looked to the stars with new hope because they knew something powerful. Something true. That a single call for aid was all it took. And when Earth answered, the stars burned with fire. Asterisk,